And welcome to another episode of Matty Allen Live. I'm your host, Matty Allen, and we're here with a special program for you today because Richard Hart is getting ready to go live. And there's been a lot of stuff happening in HEX today, so I want to recap it before Richard goes live here in about 17 minutes. And if you've been tuning in to what's been going on in HEX today, then you realize that Silver the Antidote revealed his face today. And this is part of the trend, right? Of people in HEX showing up for themselves, showing up for the community, getting more involved. And, I think it was a great moment for everybody. I saw Hex Cadet in the comments saying, hey, this might be something that they'll clip for the 2021 rewind, and what a rewind it will be. Oh, hey, I see Hex Cadet here. And those of you who haven't seen the 2020 rewind 10 or 15 times, then you're really missing out because it gets better every time you watch it. And you can donate to the Hex Cadet on the ETH address that's posted in the description there on that video. I know I did, and really appreciate the work done. So, hey, everybody who's in the chat. Hey, Balliot Brand, Kay, David Morales, Krypto 303, Hex Cadet, Hex Recon. Good to see everybody. And I knew that people would be interested, in staying warmed up for Richard, right? Because when our founder gets on and speaks only once about every 2 weeks, now, of course, most founders don't have most coins don't have a founder because the founder exit scammed or never gave their identity in the first place. That's one thing that is different about Hex, right? We know who created it. We know what kind of a guy he is. And turns out he's a super smart guy who is probably operating at several levels way higher than even we can imagine. Has been a point that I've made recently, is the more that I study Hex, the more I realize how deep the game can go. And so those of you who tuned in for Silver the Antidote and tuned in for his big face reveal that just happened, and for his unveiling of his plan to attract more people into Hex by starting a travel channel, that's really big news. That's exciting. So we definitely had a moment, but I was listening to the analysis that he and Captain RG3 were doing just a few minutes ago. And so I wanted to highlight some of their amazing insights, right? Silver says that this could be a situation where there's a double bluff happening in regards to the large stake that's coming out soon over the next month, that there's going to be about 5 billion Hex coming out. Somebody in the comments had mentioned that at least a good part of that is coming out from the OA, which we know the OA will continue to act in the best interest of Hex. However, Silver speculates that it might be Three Arrows Capital, which is the first hedge fund that we know of that's here. So that could be the case, right? Where that's who's in the market. Sorry, there's somebody knocking at my door. It might be a delivery. They'll have to come back. Hello, I'm live streaming here. And so if it's Three Arrows Capital, they're in kind of a tricky situation because that's a whale who's been baited into a situation. I say beta because the liquidity amount has decreased to the point where if you're a big player, right? Hex was designed to create new whales. So from the beginning, Hex has not been a coin where people could buy in a ton without pushing the price against themselves. And Hex is designed to help people who are wanting to come in and be in the middle class and wanting to better themselves, right? Because we don't want to rebuild the old financial system that we're trying to get away from. We're not trying to centralize power. And so by the OA setting a bunch of master plans into action, if you've been following all the work I've been doing with the Quant Gang, which is on Tuesday nights, and we're streaming for 6 hours at a time, coming up with lots of deep analysis, looking at the numbers of when HEX is coming out and trying to understand what all the quantitative angles are, but also what all the psychology is in the market. And so when Silver says that there's a double bluff situation that could be happening, of course we don't know, but this could be part of the OA's strategy to flush out weak hands. If it's not Three Arrows Capital that has that other large stake coming out, but if in fact it's the OA, right? I've heard Silver comment before that whenever coins really end up going on an exchange, we can't really track them to the same extent that we can whenever they don't touch an exchange. And so in some situations, I think there could be benevolent factors happening that we're not able to see, which again, like Richard said in the HEX 2020 Rewind, HEX was designed to leave meat on the bone for people coming in later. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And that's a point that I want to drive home for everybody, is that if you're a billionaire, you can't buy into HEX. Sorry, you would push the price against yourself too much. If unfortunately you don't have enough money to overcome the high gas fees, then you're not going to be able to get into HEX either. So it's only really the middle class, or the person who has an extra strong conviction in the project, who's done more of the research. HEX is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. I almost got that backwards there, right? Because HEX is, it's presenting itself as a scam, maybe on purpose, right? Because it's going to scare away people who don't do their homework, who aren't going to end up being converted into longtime followers of the project. And so I loved RG3's quote, and I wrote it down because I love it so much. RG3's advice about how to ask Richard to predict the future is talk to Richard like you talk to a mob boss. Okay. That is genius. So, and that's really how it is. It's kind of tongue in cheek, but it's also kind of reality, right? Because Richard, he's not necessarily allowed to give financial advice, but if you listen to his tricks and tips, then he is able to drop his brilliant knowledge. And I know that I listen to Richard because the more I listen to Richard, the more things tend to work out in my favor. I listened to him when he called the bottom on Bitcoin. Again, I wish I would have bought more Bitcoin at the bottom, but he definitely called it. I was there. I bought it when he said to. I bought ETH when he said to buy ETH. That was pretty much the bottom there too. I bought HEX after the big payday when he hinted that, oh, it's not going below 30% of a penny, it seems, for some weird reason. Right. And so even when Richard speculates, I think he's protecting the project, but he's also enriching his followers. And that's something that should help you understand what kind of a person he is, what kind of a founder he is, and how he stands out differently than everyone else. CZ at Binance does not tell you when to buy the bottom in ETH, when to buy the bottom in Bitcoin, right? Like, if anything, he'll give you bad advice. He'll give you a platform where you can get yourself wrecked and liquidated, right? Arthur Hayes, he's on the run from the feds. He had the BitMEX exchange that made over $1 billion in profit, right? That's a dude who probably made more than Satoshi ever did cashing out, right? Arthur Hayes, he thought he was so funny going on stage with Nouriel Roubini, right? Dr. Doom when it comes to Bitcoin. This is a couple years ago, but he thought he was so smooth, went on there. Nouriel tore him apart, calling him out for the scammer that he really is. making people take 100x leverage trades on everything he could think of, and then probably personally liquidating the entire market, right? Just so he can scoop up everybody's long and short whenever he wicks the market all the way down and all the way up. It's just, it's amazing to see, to compare and contrast founders that are successful. And when you look at Richard versus everybody else, Richard stands out, right? And so I know another thing that Richard really appreciates whenever he's going live with somebody else, it seems, is he appreciates it whenever we're really nice to anybody who's in that person's chat, right? Who's asking questions maybe, and they're having doubts. Some of us had doubts about HEX once upon a time before we really learned the ins and outs of it. I think it's natural whenever you come across something that's so amazing, right, for you to not really believe it at first. And to be able to tell somebody you can get 20 to 60% APY, that doesn't sound right. It sounds like a scam. And again, my point to you is that might be by design. Just like the website, hex.com, was by design not the best it could be, in order to signal to certain investors and to other people, like, you're still early. Well, now hex.com has gotten an update in the past week, and it's much slicker, and it's really what we deserve at this stage in the game. But to be able to see Richard as the master architect who works on so many different levels, it really comes out the more you study it, I think, and the more you think along the lines that RG3, that Johnny Chaos, Silver the Antidote, right? That everybody you saw at the HEX conference, everybody that streams, everybody who contributes in the comments here, we're all putting together these awesome insights that helps us understand HEX and helps increase our strong hands, right? Because another thing that I want to point out is that really the decisions have not been made yet about when people will sell. We know when people can't sell because they've locked themselves into a contract in order to earn trustless interest, but we don't know how many people are on the sidelines waiting to buy in. One prediction that I would make is 3 Arrows Capital. If it's you out there with your little 1 billion HEX and you're trying to cash out, so you can tell all your buddies to pump your 10-year bag, right? Why don't you just do an OTC sell? Like, all you're doing, if you're dumping on the market, all you're doing is trying to trick people into thinking that this low liquidity situation and they have a small bag, that they should dump it. If you have a small bag, do not sell no matter how low the price goes if you don't want to get tricked, because there's no other way for these hedge funds to get in. They can't just buy, right? The only thing that they can do is create FUD. And guess what? The HEX community is so strong that you're not even able to put misinformation into the scene. You can't just go on CNBC and start talking bad about HEX, because that would just bring more people into it. And so literally the only way that you could get into HEX, if you have a lot of money, is you could buy some HEX and then just try to dump it on the market to see if other people will get shaken out. And then you can buy back the HEX that you sold and all the other selling that you induced, right? Well, I'm here to tell you, we decide what the price of HEX is. Those of us who hold it, right? And so if you're 3 Arrows Capital, and you really want to sell your billion HEX, look, there's a huge line of people who are ready to buy it from you out there. And it's not going to be too hard to convince people. If you have a 10-year bag, you're going to want to get other people involved anyway. And you're going to want to let your buddies into it. So that's why I'm predicting, if they're really trying to get out, then they're going to do an over-the-counter sell, which is not going to hurt the price. Whereas if they are trying to get more and basically double cross the community, so that they can buy in a bigger position, then they are going to be dumping that price significantly to quote Silver, significantly, end quote, lower than you think the price can go. Just like we know that this low liquidity environment allows HEX to pump higher than anybody can imagine, it's the same thing in an automated market maker where it's a function of a square moving against yourself when you try to sell down. So if you're really trying to sell over the counter, or just keep playing the little game you're playing where you go down to 85% of a penny, right? And you're finding strong support at that level. See? But those of us, I mean, there's so many games that you can play in HEX. It's amazing, right? It's such a dynamic system. And what I'm thinking really is, and what I'm seeing is that HEX has attracted a lot of smart people who are going to be playing a lot of smart games, right? And it's not even so much just for the mad gains. I mean, the mad gains are nice. Holding HEX, right? And being on the right side of history is nice. Being so early to the next evolution of Bitcoin, it's so nice, right? But when you already have all that, then, and you've got a really big brain, you might just want to start playing games, whale games, dolphin games, all of us. That's why I talk so much about airdrops, if you have the time and the interest to lose a little bit of money to gas fees, you might want to do what I'm doing. No financial advice. What I'm doing, I'm trying to level up my character. I want to be the highest rank I can be in HEX, right? And I want to have, if I need to buy something in my life, I would rather do it with an airdrop, token or whatever. So I'm not gambling money I don't have, but I'm taking this airdrop situation seriously because I think it is an opportunity for everybody in HEX to continue being on the cutting edge of everything that's happening in the DeFi space, to continue to be knowledgeable, to be able to alert each other whenever there is a scam present. That's why another thing that we featured on my channel is helping people understand that if somebody contacts you and asks you for your seed words, I know we all act like we know what that means, right? And we all act like we're not going to do it. But still, people are getting scammed out there. So we need to look out for each other. And we all can get ready to switch over to the main event now. I'm going to drop the link here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I hope I kept you warmed up. I hope you got excited about everything that's happening. And now we're going to switch over to the stream where Richard and the person who's interviewing him, the Krypto Factor, should be going live any second. So thank you all for joining in. Go ahead and read the descriptions and watch my previous videos if you have any questions about what we've been talking about here. Thank you so much for being a viewer and being in HEX. And we will play out with a little intro clip, an outro clip. Here we go.